In this video I'm going to take a look at how we can use CSS code to modify our 2012 theme. Now by modify, or I guess you could say hack the theme to make changes that we would like to see happen in our theme. For example, let's say I wanted to center this the title here in the center. Now if you can't find a plugin for this, you could actually change the CSS sheet yourself. And just as a review, the 2012 CSS page, style.css, you can find it. You go Appearance and Editor, and here is the 2012 style sheet. If you don't see it, if it's not the first one that shows up, just scroll through all these files and then just click on style.css and it should load, and you can see all the styling here that you have for the theme. Now, as I mentioned in the previous video, if you actually make the changes here, and I go in here and actually make the changes here, the problem is if the theme ever gets upgraded, then all the changes that you make here, or any changes that I make here, are not going to be updated when the theme gets updated. So you want to keep them in a separate area, all the CSS changes that you would like to make. And the best way to do this is to actually use a plugin that installs kind of your own custom style sheet. So the plugin is called Simple Custom CSS, and it has a very high rating as well. And let's go and install it. We go to our plugins, and we want to add a new plugin, and it was called Simple Custom CSS. So just type in a search there, Simple Custom CSS, search plugins, and here we go. I'm going to install it. Do you want to install it? Yes, I do. And activate the plugin. And here we can see the Simple Custom CSS is installed, and there's a settings option there, and it may also appear in here. No, I don't see any. No. And let's see if there's anything else here. Pages. No, doesn't look like it's on our sidebar here. So let's just click on the settings here. So now we're on the Simple Custom CSS page, and on this page we can enter our own custom CSS, or we could override the default CSS. And what that means is the default CSS, that's the CSS you'll find currently for the theme, for the 2012 theme, the style sheet, style.css. So if you wanted to override the site properties, the styling properties, you could do that by simply going to the Simple Custom Style Sheet, and you could just put .site and something like max width, and you could change it to your own, maybe 1024 pixels, something like that, and that would override this declaration or this property right here. So you can add your own style or override the default style. Now if you do want to override the default style and make a change to something, like in our example here, I wanted to make this centered, so I want to override the header properties, styling properties right here. So to do that, what you have to do is you have to know how to find what they call selectors. And in the previous video we took a look at two kinds of selectors. We looked at the ID and the class selector. And the ID selector looked like this, kind of had a hash mark, and it's used to specify a style for a single unique element. And the class selector looks something like this, just starting with a period here, and that would specify a style for maybe a whole group of elements. So you could use it on a paragraph, or you could use it on a div, or a header. It can be used on many different elements or HTML tags. So we have the two ID selectors, and you have to find the ID selector of the element that you wish to change. So let's try and find the ID selector for the header title here, and you can do that in Chrome or in Firefox. So I'll demonstrate in Firefox first how you can find the ID selector. Now all you have to do is move over the element that you wish to select, or that you wish to know the ID selector for. So if I just right click on here, you'll get a little menu here, and if you click on Inspect Element, you'll see a little kind of another window or frame opens up below here. And let me move this up a little bit. Okay, and you can see just off to the on the right here, there's kind of a hierarchy of elements here, and you can see that the A here corresponds to the link. So you can see how my mouse cursor has changed to a hand. That's because there's a link right here. This is actually inside this header. There's actually a link, and if you look at you can even see the code below here. You can see that there is a link. You can see the A tag. We looked at the A tag, and this link is inside the header tags. You can see the header here, h1 site title, h1 site title. So you can see the class is equal to site title. So this is kind of our class selector, right? So how you refer to this element, you can see on the right here, h1.siteTitle. Now that would be the selector for actually the whole header here, h1.siteTitle. You can see it in kind of dotted box here. That's the whole h1.siteTitle. So you want to put it in the middle here. We want it centered in here. So it's actually you want to center this text inside of here, so you probably want to put your centering on the h1.siteTitle selector. So which again, I'll move down here and show you the h1 here. You can see the class is site title, so the selector is site title. And if you want to refer to the header h1, you can just put h1.siteTitle. So if we go back to our simple custom CSS sheet there, the one that's going to override our default, we can just put h1.siteTitle, and you can enter in the CSS property there, and it'll override your site declaration. Now that you have found the selector, you can test it out, make sure you've actually chosen the correct selector. Do a text, let's enter the property, CSS property text align center, and let's see if this property affects the title here, our selector. So you're going to have to save this, update custom CSS. It's updated. Go back to your browser and do a refresh. See how the critic is off to the left here? Do a refresh, and let's see what happens. And there you go. You see Mr. Critic is now being centered inside this h1.siteTitle header. Now let's say you wanted to also center your description or your tagline. You do the same thing. Just do a right click over top and inspect element, and here we get an h2.site description, this whole kind of box area here. And if we want to put this in the middle here, we just have to copy this h2.site description into our custom CSS page there. So that was h2 dot site description, and your open bracket and close bracket, and if we put in the text align and center and update our CSS page, our custom CSS page, and go back to our browser and do a refresh, and now you see Winnipeg Restaurant Reviews is now in the center here. And you could also put perhaps you could put a border around it as well. So let's see how we would do that. We would go to the border property, and let's take a look here at our HTML, and we'd actually need our CSS, and let's see, CSS border, and let's scroll down, and you can have a look here how you can create a border. You could create a dash border, solid border, or a colored border. And here's some examples of the CSS you would use, the properties here. So border style solid, and you could control the width as well. Border width 5 pixels. So let's try that. And I'm going to copy that. I'm going to take that back to my custom page, and let's do that on the description. Control V. So I got a border style that is solid and has a width of 5, and I could also do a border color, I guess, if I wished, but I'm just going to update this and go back to my browser, and let's see, and here now I have this kind of like, can you see this border around it here? Well, once you find that selector, you can make all kinds of changes. So actually probably I'd want to use kind of a dashed, maybe a dash border. So let's go back in here, and I'm going to change this from solid to actually there's a dotted, and I'll change that to 1 pixel, and instead of borders in border, I'm just going to do border top and border bottom. So do a Control C and Control V, and so I have a border top and a border bottom, and you can find all these declarations here. If you just kind of look them up, you can figure out how to do it. So border top, you can see here, border top style dotted, border bottom style. So you can just play around with that W3 School website. There's all kinds of tutorials, really good. So border, let's do border, I guess we should put a border top style dotted and border bottom style dotted as well. Control C, Control V, border bottom style dotted, and let's save that, and let's go back to our page here, and I'm going to get rid of this right now so we can get a better look, and just refresh, and here you go. Now you have a kind of a dashed or dotted line where your description is. So the key to actually making custom changes to your design is finding the selectors first, and once you find the correct selector, then applying the custom CSS properties, whether that's a text align center or a font size, a larger font size. So finding the selectors is really what's important. To find specific selectors for elements, we use the Firefox browser, and we just did a right click on the area we were interested in inspecting, and here we got the H1 site title. And we can also do this in Chrome if you wish. You can do the same thing, just right click, you're interested in the header title here, just inspect the element, and you will see that it'll come up here, the H1 title. That's the element we're interested in inspecting. And one of the neat things you can do with Chrome actually is you can actually just practice your your CSS property. Just for example, text align and center, and enter there. Oops, I'm going to change this to actually right, so it's already centered right now. Change this to right, and you can see it actually move from the center here to the right. But that's not a permanent change. That change is only temporary. As soon as you refresh the page, it's going to go back to its original style. So you have to actually commit the changes in the custom page here. So just as a quick review, if you want to make some changes to your design, you want to make some kind of styling changes, you can use Custom CSS to kind of hack the design, the 2012 design, or whatever design you're using. So in this case, what I did first was I installed this plugin, this Custom CSS plugin. And the reason I installed the plugin is because if I actually went and actually changed the design itself, I went to the editor and went to the actual style.css page and made the changes there. If the theme was ever updated, you wouldn't be able to, you would lose all these changes if you actually did it in the actual editor. So you want to do it in this plugin here so that you can keep your changes if the theme gets updated. So you install this plugin, Simple Custom CSS, and then the next thing you have to do is you have to find the selector, and you can do that using the using either Chrome or using Firefox. And once you found the selector, then you can enter the CSS properties that are going to affect that element. So, and if you're not unsure about different properties, you still can learn a lot more at the HTML W3 School site here. There's a CSS tutorial and an HTML tutorial. They're both excellent tutorials, and they will help you as well.